Hi everyone. So in this video we're going to start using R to actually do some branding
analysis.
Analysis. It's me, Robert Cluley,
and Tassos Pagliasclis, yeah.
We should have introduced ourselves, sorry about that. So let's open R. So I've already downloaded and installed R like we talked about in a previous video, and I've installed some of the packages that we're going to use today already. So if you're not sure how to install a package or what a package is, this is probably a good point to go and do some independent research.
Yeah, or look at our previous video.
Yeah, or look at the previous video. So hopefully you'll have seen some of the data files that we loaded onto Moodle. And now we're going to start doing something with the quantitative data file, the survey that Tassos conducted. Yeah. So what we're going to do is going to create an object. We can call the object anything. I advise just using like a letter.
Okay.
Because you have to keep typing it out. So
okay.
If you give it something really complicated, you'll have to keep typing it out lots of times and it gets really annoying.
Okay.
So now we need to tell R what this object is.
Okay.
And I know that it's a CSV file.
Yeah.
So I can tell R this. If I type read.csv, what it's saying is basically read the CSV file, and there is a package essentially, or a function called CSV, which has the ability to read a CSV file.
Right.
So there's other things you could do, like read table, because there's a table file which has the function to read depending on the object. If you want to upload the SPSS data file, you can do that. That's a package that I don't use regularly, so you'll just have to Google it.
Okay.
But either way, you then need to tell it what you want.
Okay, so the name of the file?
Not quite. You have to either give it the full address on your computer.
Oh, right, okay.
So that would be like, C users, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
Which gets kind of confusing. So the way I tend to do it is to use another little tool that's built into R called FileChoose.
Okay.
And what this will do is it's going to open a window.
Oh, wow. That's more convenient.
And then you can just, click wherever you know the file is. So I'm pretty sure this is the one.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Okay.
Now R has this object called D,
okay.
and it knows that that object is the contents of that data file.
Okay.
So we can check that by using some built-in functions.
Okay.
There's a function called names, which will tell you the top line, the column names, in a, if you think of it as an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay.
So there you go, and these look right.
Okay, yeah, these are right, yes, indeed. Those are the names of the variables in the file.
You could use a function called head, which is going to show you the first few rows of the whole data file.
Yeah.
So you can again just check that they look like they're about
right.
They
look like they're about right, yeah, the numbers.
You can use, I think this should work, and what this will give is summary statistics for each of those variables.
Or columns in this case.
If it works. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's take a look at these statistics. Are they the same? They're the same for every variable then?
No.
No, I mean, yes, they are.
You get the same statistics.
The same statistics for each variable. So you have the minimum value, which is 1 in our case. You have the maximum value, which differs per variable, but in our case, at least for the Likert scales, is 10. You have where it says first QU, I think what it means is the first quartile. So what is the value of the variable at 25% of the distribution? The median, where it says next, is essentially the value of the variable at 50% of the distribution. And the mean is the numerical average that you can calculate even through Excel. And finally, the third quartile, which is the value at the 75% of the distribution. So what it essentially does, this summary statistics, it gives you these basic distribution statistics, including the minimum and the maximum, which is a very useful thing to do to at least test if there are errors, if you have put some number by error. So if we saw a maximum value of 11, we knew that would be an error, and to test the basic structure of the variables that you have in your data set. Nice.
Yeah, so that's pretty easy. And these functions, name, summary, head, they're some of the ones that we talked about as being built into R. You don't have to do anything to use them.
Yeah.
But some of what we want to start doing will involve adding some packages that we need to have installed, and we talked about that in the previous video, and we talked about how to load or call a package. So in this case, some of what we're going to do uses the psych package. So it's always a good idea if you know you're going to be using a package to install it. To load it, sorry.
To load it,
we'll
to
definitely
install it, and load it,
and then load it at the start of what you're doing. So now we've got it available to use.
Good.
So we know that some of the items need to be reverse coded.
Yeah, that's a good place to start.
So if we start this as part of this kind of data cleaning, and it will allow us to think about how to get R to do some things with objects. What we can do...
Before we actually do that, maybe we want to show the students the questionnaire and explain what a reverse coded item is and why we need all the items to be reverse coded. There we go. So we've loaded the questionnaire here that you can find at Moodle. If we scroll down, you will see how the questionnaire is structured. It's an advertising questionnaire, so it evaluates these advertisements. And if we stop at the first statements, the first 3 statements are looking at the general attitude towards the advertisements. And what you will see is that this is what we call a semantic differential scale. So it's a scale, a measurement scale that differentiates between 2 opposite concepts. So on the one side we have positive, on the other side we have negative, and the participant rates the advertisement according to how positive or negative they feel about the advertisement. So if we look at these 3 questions, these 3 items here, we will see that the first item and the last item, they both have positive and good on the left-hand side, but the middle item has unfavorable on the left-hand side, which is the negative item. So here we need to reverse code these items to make sure that the positive side is always on the right hand side, so that it makes sense with the rest of the questionnaire. We need to make sure that the larger number denotes the more positive attitude. So what we're going to do is go back to the R and recode the first and the third item to be positive on the right hand side. So how do we do that?
Okay, well, like I said, we go back into R. So some of what you do when you're doing R is you can play around with things in Excel, you can look at other web pages and other sources, and sometimes you just need to write things down as well. So we'll do a bit of that. So we know we've got this object called D, which contains the responses to the survey. And what we now know is that the first and the third item of that survey need to be reverse coded. So what we can do is we can literally say, take each of the columns for those responses and reverse code them.
Okay.
You'd think somebody might have written a package
to do that. Okay.
And there are some, but they're actually quite complicated to use to do quite a simple thing. So many people recommend just doing it manually.
Okay.
And the way to do that is, firstly you need to know the column numbers of the variables that you want to reverse code. And I think from memory, we've got an ID column, and then this is the first item, add AAD1, and this is the third item. So 1, 2, 3, 4.
So the second and the fourth column.
2 and 4 columns, right? So what we can say is, take D, and if we use square brackets, what this is going to do is subset a small portion of the data. And you have a comma in the middle. And on the left-hand side, you need to define which rows you want. And because we want all of them, we don't need to put anything. And then if you use C, which means combine or concatenate, the second and the fourth column. So now we need to tell R, well, what's these new objects going to be? And I believe to reverse code items, given this maximum scale is out of 10, we take the maximum plus 1 to it.
Yep.
And then minus the actual
Yep.
result.
Yep.
So we can take 11.
Yep.
Minus
Yep.
what was actually in D for those two columns.
Okay. Yeah.
And let's see what happens. This should work.
Yeah.
I'm nervous now, Tassos. We haven't got an error message, so
Okay.
it's done something and it hasn't gone wrong.
Okay. So I think also that's important in R. If something goes right, you don't get feedback. If something goes wrong, it's then that you get a feedback. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid if you click a command and nothing comes up. It probably means that the command actually worked.
Yeah, exactly. But we
Yeah.
can go and check. So what we can do is we could say, show me the head of D,
Yeah.
and let's just look at D2. So 944. If we go to the original survey results, if we quickly download them. We've got 277.
Yeah. So
that's reverse coded
that's
correctly.
reverse coded. Yeah.
So that's how to reverse code your items in R. Once
Yeah.
you've done that,
That's great.
the new object of D, what we've done is we've taken the old D,
Yeah.
reverse coded, created a new object called D with the reverse coded items and all the other ones. That's the really clever thing. So what we've done here is we've said don't change anything else about D
Right.
apart from what we told you to change.
Okay. Right.
So in fact, if we look at the head for all of D, nothing
else
changed.
has changed. Good.
So that's how to reverse code. And I guess the task for the students now is to figure out which other items need
Yeah.
reverse coding. And we
Yeah.
can,
So in the file that we have included the questions, you will see that we're asking you to go through the items and try to figure out which ones need the reverse coding. You can do that by essentially looking at what we call the direction of the response. So remember that all responses need to have the same direction. And the direction we're using is the left-hand side is the negative or the weaker part, and the right-hand side is the positive or the stronger part. So you need to go through all of the questions and make sure that when you use them in the analysis, they represent the left-hand side, the negative, the right-hand side, the positive.
yeah. And then once you've done that, you can create your own object, and in exactly the same way, just select each of the columns or the items
Yeah.
and change them. And the great thing about R is you don't just have to be able to do 2 at a time or 1
Yeah.
at a time. You can do all of them
Okay.
by just listing more columns here.
Okay.
So we'll let the students go and do that and then
Yeah.
pick it up later.
Yeah.